So our lion for the day is called Whitelock. We've all been looking forward to this.
Well, I hope you're not disappointed. But the first thing that they teach you in speech class is that do not apologize. And I'm going to break that rule right off from the start because I am going to apologize. Because, for example, in the 90s, when the California State Supreme Court said we can't do affirmative action anymore, that the schools were looking for various ways other than your grade point average and your test scores and that type of thing to admit different people to the universities. And what they did is they went with the essay, and if in your essay you could say that you had a tough life and you had overcome it, that you got more points on that essay than other people, as opposed to the grade point average and test scores. I would not have made it because, ladies and gentlemen, I have led a charmed life. So I have no story to tell you here about how tough things were for me. I've led a charmed life. So it may not be what you're looking for. At any rate, March 18th, 1939, and I was born in Detroit, and I was very fortunate that by 1943, my father, who was a chief engineer at the plant that he worked at, his plant moved from Detroit down here up to Traverse City on the edge of Lake Michigan, and we were in a wonderful place to grow up. I don't know what I would be today if I had stayed in Detroit. And anyway, we moved up to Traverse City in 1943. I went to Boardman grade school. I learned a quick lesson from my mother about life while I was going to Boardman grade school, and she talked about being late to class. And the two little boys were late to class, and one little boy said, "I'm going to kneel down and pray that we're not late for class." And the other little boy said, "I'm going to pray while I'm running." And my mother said, "Paul, that should be you. God helps them that help themselves." And she gave me guidance like that throughout my life. Believe it or not, I was an Episcopal acolyte. And one of the most traumatic experiences of my young life was as an acolyte, because the Greeks in town didn't have a place to worship, so they worshiped at the Episcopal Church, and when they had a funeral, they came to our church. And as a 9-year-old sitting up there with the on the altar area, watching my first Greek funeral with the open casket and the weeping and wailing that I had not been exposed to before, that really shook me. I went to Traverse City Central High School, where I played football. I was a quarterback and fullback and center linebacker, and that's when we played both offense and defense. You didn't have two different teams. I was a little odd because it was a split T offense where you were a passing quarterback, but you also blocked. And for some reason, not that I didn't enjoy throwing a touchdown pass or doing a quarterback sneak, and getting a first down or a touchdown, but I got a lot more happiness out of throwing the block that caused my halfback to make the touchdown than I did from throwing the touchdown. I was also on the ski team. Didn't last long, I wasn't that good. I was in the choir, and that was a great intellectual experience for me, and a good experience as far as learning cultures and different worlds and appreciating the arts. We had a group there. It was kind of like a youth club, and it was called the Bogey, the Boy Girl Club, and I happened to be the president of the Boy and Girl Club. As we were graduating, I won an award called the Terry Berry Award. Those are the people that did the class rings, that type of thing. And that award was for scholarship, citizenship, athletics, and some other ship I don't remember what they were. And my friends came up to me and said, Whitelock, how in the devil could you have won that award? You raise as much hell as the rest of us. I said, well, yes, I do. But I don't get drunk. I don't have a case of beer in the car with open bottles and squeal my tires around the A&W for half an hour waiting for the cops to show up.
That's me.
Okay. Let's see, what do I have? My first job as an 11-year-old was at a gas station, and my job was to check the oil and wash the windshield. That's when you wash your windshield. And, the great big cars was all I could do. Get up there on the stool and work there. Then I went to work in a restaurant. And you know what? That wasn't my first job. My first job, I was 9 years old and I was picking cherries. And I went with my buddy to pick cherries. And after 2 days, he quit. And it was a 2-week job. And I said, I want to quit too. And my dad said, you are not going to quit. You are going to stay until it's over with. This is what you signed up for. This is what you're going to do. I appreciated that later in life.
Didn't like it then.
I don't mind getting dirty. I don't mind getting sticky. I don't like to get dirty and sticky at the same time. Then I went to work in a restaurant, and I was soda jerking and washing dishes. I like the soda jerk part better than the washing dishes. The son of the restaurant owner worked at the local sports store. At the end, and the owner of the sports store would come into the restaurant and have lunch each day. At the end of the year, he fired the kid and hired me. That did not go over very well. Okay.
You were such a
That's
good sport?
what. Pardon me?
You were such a good sport?
No, I did my job, and I didn't complain. I bought an aqualung because the aqualungs were just coming up. I had the first aqualung in northern Michigan. This was back in 52. There were no instructors. There was a booklet, you read the booklet, you went scuba diving. All right. The first time I did that,
That doesn't sound good.
Broken ear,
the first time I did that was at the cottage in Elk Rapids, and I put the thing on and went out, and I disappeared for 45 minutes.
Oh,
Came back, my mother was in absolute tears. So that's the first time I had ever seen my mother cry. And again, I led a charmed life. I had never seen my folks fight or argue or my mother cry. So 1958, I went to the University of Miami in Florida. Actually, scuba diving had something to do with that. That went very well, except for the fact that I was doing some salvage diving down there, and I got jungle rot infection in the ears, the kind of stuff that the guys got in World War II in the jungle between their toes and their ears. So I had to leave that humidity and come back. My buddy was at the University of Michigan, so in 1960 I went to the University of Michigan. That first semester at the University of Michigan, actually it was the second semester that I went there, I got a D in political science. I was given an essay to write about the soil bank program. If some of you don't remember that, that was during the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration, and they would pay the farmers not to grow product to keep the prices high. I felt essentially there's something wrong with this. I understood why they did it, but I felt it was wrong. Not the way to solve the problem. I got a D. And it wasn't about the composition or the spelling or whatever. It was about my approach. I'm a quick learner. I didn't get a D on my next one. So, but last week, there was great vindication. I got, in our paper, there was a letter to the editor from Traverse City, Michigan, my hometown, and the farmer was saying that he was required to dump 40,000 pounds of cherries. The same thing, price controls. And he went right back to my approach on it. And I said, well, there's vindication. At the end of that semester at the University of Michigan, I went to work for a camp for delinquent boys out of Detroit, Michigan. And it was up in our Traverse City area. And the fellow that ran the camp was one of my ex-high school teachers. And at the end of the session, he called me over and he says, Paul, he says, you need to go back to school and you need to sign up to be a teacher now to poli-science. And he talked me into it, so I went back to Michigan State University and entered the education program. Now, I've never forgiven him for that. Not because I had a bad career, because I didn't, but 3 years later, he got out of education and went into selling the class rigs. So that's the only reason I haven't forgiven him. He was a good guy. Anyway, at Michigan State University, I ended up with a bachelor's in education with a minor in speech and theater. I kept the minor in theater very quiet throughout my education career because I wanted to teach history and be a counselor, but I didn't want to do the weekend every time as the theater instructor. So, all right. Right after I got out of my BA, I was immediately hired mid-term to teach in my hometown because I was doing my student teaching in my hometown, and it was in fifth grade. And I really enjoyed it. I learned quickly the difference between education from the professor and education in the classroom. And there's a considerable difference. Then during that summer, I took up skydiving. And I've told you before, I don't do drugs, I do adrenaline. Skydiving is one of the best things for adrenaline. You jump out, it's almost blasé after the chute opens. It's like someone
No big.
It's almost like someone takes a hypodermic syringe that's empty and injects it into your vein. And instead of injecting a drug, just pulls out all the troubles of the world. You just get that feeling of euphoria as you're falling down there. Okay, that was the second. On my 21st jump, my chute didn't open. And
Well, we know the ending.
That's adrenaline.
I worked on it for a while and it wasn't going to open, so I reached down and you grab your chute and you hold on to it, and then you pull the ripcord, and then you throw it out to the side. If you just pull the ripcord, it can go up and tangle. So you grab your chute, you pull the ripcord, and you throw it out to the side. Now, if you drop the ripcord, if you drop what they call the D-ring, then when you hit the ground, you have to buy everybody booze. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'm hanging on to this mother. So I got that now. But because I didn't land where I was supposed to, I landed in the forest. And when you land in the forest, you cross your legs, and you put your hands like this. And I hit those trees, and I heard crash, bang, snap, 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 and boom! All of a sudden, I came to a stop, and I was this far off the ground. My chute looked like someone had hit it with a .50 caliber machine gun. At any rate, in 1964, I went back to Michigan State University. I had said to myself, if you're going to stay in education, you better get a master's degree and move on. So I went back and entered the counseling program. high school counseling. And that's where